Close your eyes, smell wet earth and sun-warmed grain. You stand in a field where billions depend on this single seed. In his one, a humble bowl sits before you, simple and innocent. Yet nearly half the world eats this grain every single day. Farmers sweat under the hot sun to grow it with hard work and care. For thousands of years, rice built great civilizations across Asia and Africa. It fed families and shaped entire societies through its quiet power. This small grain acts like a strong spine for human history. Without rice, many people could not have survived the past. It is not just food, but the backbone of life itself. It is long. This tiny seed carries a long and powerful story waiting to be heard. Travel back 13,000 years to the misty banks of the Yangtze River in ancient China. The cool air mixes with the smell of damp earth and flowing water. You stand among people who lived as hunters and gatherers long before farming began. They did not grow their own food yet. Instead, they moved constantly from place to find plants and animals to eat. Life was not easy, and everyone had to work hard every single day just to survive. The environment was harsh, and failure meant starvation for the whole group. One day, they found a special plant growing deep in the wetlands near the rivers. This plant was wild rice, known scientifically as Oryza rufi pogo n. It grew naturally in the water and mud without human help. People tried to collect it because it was a food. It gave them the energy they needed to keep moving and hunting. It was also simple to cook over a small fire. However, wild rice was not easy to use for a hungry family. The grains were very small and light. When they became ripe, they quickly fell into the muddy water. This made it very hard to collect enough rice for a meal. People often lost many grains before they could gather them at all. Every handful of mud meant a lost opportunity to eat. They had to fight against nature itself to fill their stomachs. It is a struggle to find their daily existence in those ancient times. You witness a moment where a tiny biological secret quietly reshaped human destiny. In wild rice, ripe grains fall off the plant and drop into the mud. This natural process helps the plant grow again, but for hungry humans, it was a massive problem. Collecting rice scattered everywhere was extremely difficult. Much of the food was lost before people could gather it. Then, a special change appeared in some rice plants, altering history forever. The grains did not fall off anymore. They stayed on the plant even when ripe. We call this non-shattering. This small change was vital because it allowed farmers to wait until the rice was ready. Now people could harvest many plants at the same time instead of chasing falling seeds. It became faster, easier, and more efficient to collect food without wasting a single grain. People could save more rice and waste less while building stronger reserves. Because of this, people could grow more rice and feed more than ever before. Villages became larger and farming grew stronger across the vast landscape. This tiny genetic change helped start rice agriculture and change the future of human civilization. Forever, we see how a simple mutation built the foundation for great empires. You are not just watching, you are part of the rhythm of the harvest. Today, we step into East Asia to see how a single grain of rice built empires. Rice farming demands impossible precision, turning simple fields into complex engineering projects. One farmer cannot succeed alone. Survival requires a massive, synchronized community effort. Villages transform into organized societies with strict rules to manage shared water resources. Power shifts from local leaders to central governments that build massive dams and canals. From China to the Khmer Empire, rice becomes the engine that drives civilization and war. In these endless battles, the water level must be controlled down to the millimeter. Canals are dug by hand while thousands of workers move in perfect unison. This synchronized labor creates a unique social bond that binds entire communities together. Without this cooperation, the crops would fail and the people would starve. As farming techniques improve, The need for strong leadership grows rapidly. Governments rise to manage these intricate water systems and organize huge construction projects. They build stone dams that hold back rivers to feed the thirsty fields. These massive irrigation networks allow far more foods to be produced than ever before. Suddenly, a single village can support thousands of hungry people instead of just a few. In China, these large farming systems sustain incredibly big populations in one area. Korea and Japan opt the same methods, making rice the center of daily life. Even in Southeast Asia, the Khmer Empire uses advanced farming to build great structures. The famous Temple of Angkor Wat stands tall because of this agricultural wealth. Rice was never just a simple meal on a wooden plate. It shaped how people lived, worked, and governed themselves every single day. It helped create strong societies and powerful empires across the entire continent. The constant need to manage water and land brought people together in new ways. This shared struggle changed the course of history forever. We see how a plant can become a tool for empires to rise. The humble grain teaches us about the power of cooperation among many people. A grain of rice leaving its Asian home to ride the winds of history. Rice refuses to stay in Asia, starting a massive westward migration. This journey is driven by human hands through trade, travel, and conflict. The Silk Road emerges as the vital artery connecting Asia to Europe. Dusty caravan tracks stretch endlessly under the hot sun of the desert. Merchants pack their carts with silk, spices, and precious grains of rice. They move slowly across mountains and through dangerous valleys. Maps connect continents with faint but vital lines of commerce. Every wheel turns toward new markets and hungry populations. As people traveled, they shared not only products but also knowledge. Farmers in new lands learned how to grow rice in strange soil. They copied techniques from distant masters who walked far ahead. Secrets of irrigation and planting spread like wildfire across borders. Were sometimes forced crops to move where peace could not. Ships carried sacks of grain across oceans to thirsty shores. The familiar white grain became a tool of empire and survival. It changed diets and built civilizations in places far away. We see how a simple seed reshaped entire regions. Fast forward to bustling marketplaces where the air smells of spice. We step back in time as rice quietly drifts from Asia. To Persia and the Mediterranean Sea. The journey was slow but steady across vast and familiar distances. These places held different climates, so farmers had to adapt their methods. Still, rice continued to spread despite harsh weather and difficult soil conditions. Armies also played a vital role in this ancient journey. When powerful leaders and their soldiers moved across lands, they carried new crops with them. One example is Alexander the Great, whose campaigns connected East and West in a single powerful sweep. Through these connections, rice became known in more regions than ever before. An important group called the Moors brought rice to Europe itself. They introduced rice to Spain and parts of Italy with great care. They also brought new farming techniques, including irrigation systems for dry lands. These systems helped farmers grow rice where it was impossible before. In Spain, rice became a key ingredient in a famous dish called paella. This dish mixes rice with meat, seafood, and vegetables in a rich pot. In Italy, rice became the base of another popular dish called risotto. These dishes are still loved today and show how rice became part of local culture. We step into feudal Japan, where the air smells of wet earth and steaming fields. Forget gold or silver here, the true currency grows in the paddies. People did not count their wealth in coins. Instead, they measured their fortune in bushels of grain. The specific unit of this currency was called a koku. One koku represented exactly the amount of rice needed to feed one person for one full year. The decimal measurement became a very important standard for the entire nation. Land was valued strictly by how much rice it could produce. A person's power and social status depended entirely on how many koku they controlled. Powerful leaders known as daimyo owned vast areas of land. His luans produced massive amounts of rice, which gave them great wealth and influence. The more rice a leader had, the stronger their position became. Rice was also used to pay workers and soldiers directly. Samurai, the famous warriors of Japan, were often paid in rice instead of coins. Instead of metal money, they received koku from their leaders. It is worn, this grain supported their families and daily lives without fail. Because of this system, rice was directed to military power. Control of rice fields was extremely important for survival. Many conflicts and wars happened because of land and rice production. If a group controlled more rice fields, they could support more soldiers. They could also gain more political power over the region. Rice was not just a crop for eating. It was a tool for control and survival for everyone. Farmers worked hard to grow it under the hot sun. It is moan. Leaders managed land and resources to keep the balance. This system shaped daily life for every single person in the empire. The golden fields stretching to the horizon held the fate of nations. Heavy sacks of grain weighed down a farmer's shoulders. His rice ore rested beside a stack of rice baskets. The cold silence of a war was fought over a single field. You see how a simple plant changed the course of history. It turned hunger into a weapon for empires. This story shows how food became the key to power. We must understand that this system was complex and serious. The world faces a terrifying reality as populations grow fast while food supplies remain dangerously low. It is millions of people live with the constant, heavy fear of starvation on their doorsteps. Rice feeds the hungry masses, yet traditional farming methods simply cannot produce enough grain to save them. The fields look empty and the shelves stay bare. Scientists realize that something drastic must change to solve this global crisis. They begin working on new solutions to feed the starving billions. In 1960, the International Rice Research Institute opens its doors in the Philippines. Its mission is clear and urgent: improve rice production to help farmers grow more food quickly. Soon, they create a new type of rice known as irrigate. It is this plant is shorter, stronger, and grows much faster than its older cousins. Farmers later call this variety miracle rice because of its incredible power. It gives a much higher yield from the same small plot of land. With fertilizers and better irrigation, production increases greatly in just a few years. It is this change becomes part of what we call the Green Revolution. It is nations like India, which once struggled with severe shortages, become more stable and secure. They finally produce enough rice to feed their entire populations without fear. Millions of lives are saved from the deadly grip of hunger. The Green Revolution changes agriculture forever in many countries around the globe. A quiet betrayal fills the air as the solution to hunger slowly destroys the very land that feeds us. The Green Revolution promised abundance, yet its success hit a slow, creeping poison beneath golden stalks. Farmers traded healthy soil for speed, pouring chemicals that eventually killed the Earth's natural balance. At first, they were happy because they could produce more rice to feed growing cities. But later, they began to see the negative effects on their own farms. To grow more rice, farmers used large amounts of chemical fertilizers to force rapid growth. It is these chemicals helped plants grow faster and stronger in the short term. However, too much fertilizer harms the soil, making it weak and exhausted over many years. The land eventually cannot produce as much food as before. Farmers also used pesticides to protect rice from insects and diseases in the fields. It is these chemicals kill harmful insects, but they also harm helpful ones too. In addition, pesticides can enter rivers and lakes near farming communities. This pollutes water, affecting fish, animals, and even humans who live nearby. People who use or drink this water may face serious health problems later. Another problem is the loss of traditional rice varieties from the past. In the past, farmers grew many different kinds of rice with unique traits. Each type had its own taste, color, and strength to survive different conditions. Some could survive floods while others could grow in dry areas without help. It is warm. These local varieties were rich in nutrients and adapted to their environments perfectly. During the Green Revolution, many farmers stopped growing these traditional types entirely. It is Moab. This simple act of eating becomes a deep connection to ancient history. Every single grain carries the heavy weight of human struggle and survival across centuries. We are not just filling our stomachs, but honoring a long legacy built on sweat and time. Respecting this food means honoring the entire story of our species, struggling to feed itself. It is one, the quiet truth of this connection lingers long after the final spoonful is gone from your bowl. You now hold the past inside your own home while sitting at your modern table. The thousands of hands that touched this seed before it reached your lips today. If you thought this history was quiet, wait until you hear what salt once did to empires. That next story begins right now with a pinch of white crystals.